Us here to talk about the emotional and the psychological concept of liberating oneself and the emotional and the psychological dimension of liberation. So how do we free ourselves from the chains of this dunya in the context specifically for the youth, and how can we use that prophetic empathy, the emotional intelligence to get to that point, inshallah. So without any further ado, inshallah, we'll have Sister Kay.
Okay, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I don't have much time, it's turning it on, but I'm going to get started anyway. As you guys can see, I've been focusing on this topic of emotional intelligence for some time. And the concept of emotional intelligence is very key to our Prophet ﷺ's mission. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ specifically brought something to this world. This is what he brought to the world. He brought massive change to the world. And when you study the Prophet ﷺ, from the perspective of how he interacted with people, how he understood people, and how he caused change in people, the best example that I can give is this right here. Can somebody tell me what this is? Don't go too deep, just tell me what you see. What is it? A needle, okay, a syringe. It's fine the way it was. A syringe, right? Can someone briefly tell me, in like layman's terms, really layman's terms, I know y'all all really smart, what's the purpose of this instrument, this tool? Yes, yes. Yes, so let me say it in a different perspective. The purpose of this is for someone with a lot of skill. Someone with a lot of skill in training, a technician, takes this device, and takes that little needle and finds the perfect spot to place that needle. They can't go an inch too further and they can't go an inch too the other way. They have to find the exact spot. They put that needle at the exact spot, and then they inject whatever is inside of that needle inside of the person, correct? Now, if someone was to take that needle and just stab randomly somewhere, would it be effective in causing the change that the thing inside of there is supposed to do? No, it takes someone that has skill. It takes someone that has understanding of where to put that needle specifically in order to get that medicine inside of the person they're dealing with, correct? Now here's the deal. Emotional intelligence is the exact same thing. Emotional intelligence is the way that you get medicine or anything inside of someone else's heart. It's the way you cause change. It's the way that you cause influence. It's the way that you bring something positive to people. Now, I'm going to read something to you. Right here. Imam Suhawardi is an early scholar. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but I'm going to read part of it to you. Imam Suhawardi, he says that if you read this whole thing, the summary of this, he says, if you study the Prophet ﷺ, you'll come to the conclusion that he's the most intelligent of Allah's creation. But how does he deduce that the Prophet ﷺ is most intelligent? He says, look, if you understand how he managed the Arabs, who at that time were like wild, scattered beasts. He was dealing with really rough people. If you're from the hood, you know rough people. It's hard to deal with them. You got to know just what to do at the right time. What did he do? He was patient with them. He led them. Then they changed until the point where they were fighting against their own families and everything that they knew to be correct. They completely shifted their paradigm. Why? Because someone was able to connect to them on such a deep level that he was able to cause change. And look what he says. He says he never had prior experience. He didn't go to a management 101 class. The Prophet ﷺ didn't go to a management workshop. How did he know how to connect to people so deeply? He never read before because he was unlettered. He says, indeed, the third from the last line, indeed, if you contemplate all of this, you'll come to the conclusion that the Prophet ﷺ is the most intelligent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation. By intelligence, he's highlighting this. Look at this for a moment. There are different types of intelligences. Up until the mid-90s or early 90s, IQ was the most sought after type of intelligence. How much book smarts you got. But guess what? Ever since I was a teenager, I knew I needed street smarts just to get to the school to get book smarts. Y'all feel me on that one? Y'all New Yorkers, come on, man. I'm teaching emotional intelligence to like the dons of emotional intelligence here. You New Yorkers, you know how to deal with people. But EQ, don't take it to the head. EQ, what is EQ? That's what we're going to study for the next 20 minutes, inshallah. Emotional intelligence, and we're going to define it. What is SI? Who wants to take a shot at that? Staten Island? No. Yes. Social intelligence. Yes, you're right. Exactly. Social intelligence. Social intelligence is your understanding. Emotional intelligence is like one-to-one. Like me and my man right here, we have an amazing bond. I can feel it. He's feeling me, I'm feeling him. It's like connected, right? But social intelligence is my ability to understand and manipulate even the entire room in front of me. That takes a high level of social intelligence. And what is MI? Moral intelligence. And that's what the book also has in it. We won't talk about it, but to make it really simple, moral intelligence is what's inside the syringe. Emotional intelligence is the syringe itself. You feel me? Do you understand? Alright, let's go forward, inshallah ta'ala. So it causes change, right? But here's the deal. Let's talk about what is emotional intelligence right here. Right here. What is emotional intelligence? Number one, the ability to identify emotions. Now, brothers and sisters, but brothers, the ability to be in contact with emotions. Yo, how you feeling right now? Give me some adjective. How you feeling? Excellent. What else? Describe how you're feeling. Give me something else. Quick, drop one. How you feeling? Happy, good, what else? How you feeling? Amazing. Oh, wow, we got it. Good. How you feeling? Okay, watch this though. How are you feeling, sister? Wonderful. Oh, there we go already. Inspired. Woo! Inspired. The ability, thank you, Jazakallah. The ability to understand and identify emotions is the key quality of emotional intelligence number one. Now you're going to have to memorize these because we're going to do a case study from the life of the Prophet ﷺ, and I'm going to ask you to identify all four of these elements or abilities of emotional intelligence. Number two, what is number two? Yes, number two. You can just read it. Yes, so look, one thing is the ability to identify emotions. The next concept or capacity inside emotional intelligence is the ability to understand people's emotional shifts. So it's not just identifying. One is understanding what it means, being able to interpret that. And I'm going to give you an example as we go forward. Number three, the ability to use emotions to generate thought. What does that mean? What that means is this. There are people around you that have ups and downs of emotional changes, okay? Someone walks into the house, right? My daughter, Madia, she's only 6. I'm noticing she's having a bad day. She's feeling sad. As a father, and a loving father, and a follower of the Prophet ﷺ, what is my emotional responsibility with Madia right now? She's having a bad day, she's feeling sad. What would you say as a follower of the Prophet ﷺ, my responsibility is to her? To ask her what's wrong. Okay, cool. That's identify and understand. Take it deeper. To make her feel better. That's the real goal, right? That's the real goal. To bring her from one emotional state to another. And what's the fourth one? The ability to regulate and manage emotions. When the Prophet ﷺ says, La taghdab, what does that mean? Don't get angry. But what does it actually mean? Have the ability to identify, understand, and then regulate anger. Does everyone understand? Let's give an example of this though. We're going to have to do some examples. It's really far away. Okay, go forward. Check this out. Okay, let's do this. I need one volunteer. Someone that, you sure you got siblings, bro? Little siblings? Okay. You ready? Watch this. Let's assume, I need everyone in the room to assume these babies are 16 months. These babies are? Now watch this. Okay, you ready? Baby on the left, is the baby on the left happy? Simple. Come on, man, left. Come on. Don't think too deep. Don't think too deep. Is the baby on the left happy? No, I'm asking him. Chill out. Is the baby on the right experiencing pain? Come on, chill out. like third grade here. Like, shh. Okay, now here's where it gets deep. I really need you to be quiet on this one. Does the baby on the left realize or understand the pain that the baby on the right is feeling?
No.
No, why not? Hold on. Are you sure? They're 16 months. You telling me that baby smiling like that doesn't know what that the brother's going through? Tell me why you said no.
Because at 16 months he doesn't recognize that the cause and effect is occurring.
You took my course before, didn't you?
No.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
So listen, I have to do this quick because we don't have all day. I normally teach this in 4 hours. So listen to this. The baby on the left does not have the neocortex development to understand someone else's pain. Emotional intelligence is about building within yourself the capacity to realize and feel that someone else is in pain. The problems we have in our families is many of your own fathers, many of your own mothers, or perhaps yourself don't realize when you're hurting other people. You don't realize. There's people who have come up to me and say, I'm crying in front of my dad, and he's still saying the same thing over and over again. Over and over again. I'm literally crying, and I say, look at this baby. Because the development isn't there yet, the child isn't ready or able to be aware of emotional changes. The very lowest level, brothers and sisters, of emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize when someone else is in pain. And guess what? That's something we're really lacking in our community. Now check this. Case study. What are the 4 capacities? You already saw them. Let me tell you this hadith. Prophet ﷺ one day is chilling at home with his beloved wife Aisha radiallahu anha. He's chilling with her. Who knows what's going on? He says to Aisha, Ya Aisha, I know when you're angry with me and I know when you're upset with me. Well-known hadith. But I need you to study it from the perspective of emotional intelligence. I know when you're angry with me. I know when you're happy with me. She goes, tell me, what do I do? So the Prophet ﷺ says, when you're angry with me, when you're happy with me, you say, La wa Rabbi Muhammad. You say, La, I swear by the Lord of Muhammad. I swear by the Lord of Muhammad. And when you're angry with me, you say, La wa Rabbi Ibrahim. Nope, I swear by the Lord of Abraham. Now, you may not get the example, but let me give you a better example. As a father, when my son does something good, I go, look at my boy there. Yeah, that's my boy. When he does something stupid, I say to my wife, look at your son. That's literally what Aisha radiallahu anha is doing. When she's happy, she goes, La wa Rabbi Muhammad. Oh, Muhammad's Lord. Muhammad's Lord. But when she's angry, she goes, Abraham's Lord. That ain't your Lord, that's Abraham's Lord. Same thing, that's my boy right there. Oh, that's your son right there. Here's my question. She goes, yes, that's what I do. Here's my question. Tell me, do you see the first capacity of emotional intelligence, the ability to be aware or identify emotions? Yes or no? Tell me, where is it in this narration? Anyone? Where is the ability? Simple. I know when you're angry. Number 2 capacity. The ability to understand emotions. Is it present in this narration? Tell me around 15 minutes. Number 2 capacity. Yes. Her response is interesting. Her response, meaning he's interpreting it. Yeah, so he has now interpreted, anytime she says, La wa Rabbi Ibrahim, what? She's angry, so he's interpreted that. Now here's the next one. What was the 3rd capacity of emotional intelligence? Number 3, what was it? Generate thought. Here's my question for the brothers. Where do you see that 3rd capacity in this narration I just shared with you? Think about it. The ability to generate thought inside someone else. Yes. He told her what?
He told her, like, I know that you're mad.
So how did that create a thought? What thought did it create? In who? And what thought was created and in who?
Self-aware.
Nah, you can't just take one word. I need the details. What thought was created and in who? But no, he already got that. He already got the anger. Yes.
He generated the thought in her mind.
Of what thought? Perfect. He created something inside of her. What did he create inside of her? Married man knows the answer. What? No? You said I'm going to go to someone else. Yes? She felt self-reflective. Okay, I'm looking for someone else. It's not wrong. How do you feel? Hold on, yo. How do you feel if someone's like, yo, man, you know, whenever you get angry, man, I've been watching you, bro. This is what you do. You feel noticed. You feel noticed. He's acknowledging her. You feel like, yo, you saw me. How does acknowledgement make you feel? Makes you feel amazing. It makes you feel amazing to know that people are acknowledging you. How happy do you think Aisha felt after the Prophet just explained her to herself? How happy do you think she felt? She felt thrilled. So he took his emotional understanding of her and he used that to create a feeling inside of her. That's emotional intelligence right there. Everyone get it? Got it? You sure? We'll skip that one, we don't have time. But here's the problem. Why are most of us emotionally ignorant? Because we don't understand the emotional language. We don't understand the language of emotion. What do I mean by that? Well, I'm going to go back to this example though. One day the Prophet ﷺ, this hadith is in Abu Dawood. Is that me? This hadith is in Abu Dawood. Once the Prophet ﷺ, he was walking through Medina. There was a camel that he walked past. And the camel started to moan very loudly like a crying sound. So the Prophet ﷺ walked over to the camel and he begins to touch the camel. And when he touches the camel, he leans into it and he listens to it. And then he goes, where's the owner of this camel? Somebody runs up, quick. Labbaik ya Rasulullah, I'm here. What is it? I heard you call me. He's like, sell me this camel. The man goes, yeah, sure, it's free. It's free for you, ya Rasulullah. But it's the only one we got. Like, he's not trying to sell it. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said, you good. The Prophet ﷺ, he then replies, well, if that's the case, ittaqillah fi hadhihi al-baha'im al-mu'jama. Have fear of Allah regarding, I need you to listen closely, regarding those animals that can't speak. They can't express their feelings. He said, fear Allah regarding those individuals who can't express their feelings. What this communicates to us is that there's a responsibility on the owner of that camel to understand the emotional trauma that he was putting that camel through, even though the camel could not articulate what it was feeling. No, for real, that's heavy. It's really, really important for us to understand the responsibility of understanding. Everyone won't tell you that hurt my feelings, like the sister was saying. We have to build the capacity to understand those who don't communicate or can't communicate what they're feeling. Now, here's the problem. Why don't we understand the language of emotion? Well, here's the first thing. The first reason is because you're not listening to people. Conversations are not conversations. They're you waiting for a moment of silence so you can talk again. Conversations are you listening to someone when they're speaking. Not you zoned out like, what am I going to say next? Y'all know what I'm talking about. Conversations require that you listen to someone. Listening requires presence, that I'm here with you in the moment. You can't do that if you're off somewhere else in La La Land in your brain. You have to be present with the person. So the first problem we have is we're not listening to people. So if you're not listening, you're not going to be able to get the emotional message. But there's another reason we don't understand emotional language. Listen to this. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا مِن رَسُولٍ إِلَّا بِلِسَانِ قَوْمِهِ. Allah says, we never sent a prophet except that they spoke the language of the people. Now, on the outward, what do you think that means? Well, any prophet that was sent to any nation spoke the language of the people. Yeah, simple. Next ayah. No, a lot deeper. What does it actually mean? It actually means this. Verbal is only 7% of what we communicate to people. 38% is vocal tone and expression, and 55% is facial expression. What that means is my simple language is only 7% of the message that I'm communicating to you. Let me give you an example. Y'all are New Yorkers. Whenever I do this next slide across the country, they are so slow at understanding it. But all of y'all gonna get it right away. Hold on, that. Wallahi, yo, I ain't joking, y'all. I'm in quite a few places doing this. And they're like, watch this. Okay, here we go. You ready? You good? You good? You be slipping up, yo. Try it one more time. You good? Let's try it again. Yes, it does. No, that ain't the response though. If someone's telling me a bit, you good?
I'm good.
What's up? Let's try it again. Let's try it again. You ready? Here we go. Here we go. I'm trying to show you language is not just verbal. Language is deeper. You good?
You good?
You good?
All right. You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
You good? Alright, there we go. Alright, you good? That's a question. You good? That's saying you are good. You good? That means let's go. What's up? Now, I said the same two words and all I did was change inflection. If you learned English as a second language, you probably didn't get what I was trying to say. And the reason is this. Check it. Sorry. This is the reason. Listen, two things that you get last in a language you learn. The jokes and poetry. The two last things you can ever understand. You know a language. You know English when you understand the Daily Show. If you understand the Daily Show, you understand English. If you don't understand the Daily Show, you don't understand English. And this, brothers and sisters, is why I keep pushing the message that brothers and sisters need to be marrying people that speak the same language as them. They watch the same cartoons together. They ate the same cereal. They all understand when someone says, "You good?" She's saying to the brother, "You good?" You're like, "I'm good." No joke. It causes major problems because she's saying one thing and on here was "You good." What I'm trying to say is you will set up a family for emotional neglect and abuse if they don't speak the same emotional language. You will set her up or him up for emotional neglect. Why? Because she will be saying something. Here's the deal. Emotional intelligence is about your ability to not read what the line says, but read in between the lines. Poetry is so hard because the author isn't saying what the words are saying. That's why poetry is so hard to understand. Emotional intelligence, and when we say, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا مِن رَسُولٍ إِلَّا بِلِسَانِ قَوْمِهِ لِيُبَيِّنَ لَهُمْ. This means that the Prophet ﷺ, or any prophet sent to someone, could say, "You good? You good? You good?" That's how the Prophet was able to communicate. Why? Because, listen, the whole purpose of prophets is to get a message to people. That requires communication. That requires connection. That requires understanding. And that's why we say emotional intelligence is a prophetic quality. Because you can't stop someone from crying who you can't make laugh. You can't stop someone from crying who you can't make laugh. And in order to make you laugh, bro, we got to speak the same tongue. But not just the words on a deeper level. Feel me? I'm good. So look at this. How much time I got? 7 minutes. All right, the story, this is a well-known story, but it's never studied from the perspective of pure emotional intelligence. One day, Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, she is sitting with her beloved husband, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And the hadith tells us that at that time she was on her period actually. She's eating with him, they're drinking together. She drinks from a cup. Well-known story, all the hadith you drop in this one, right? She drinks from the cup, and then the Prophet ﷺ, sometime later, he grabs the cup, he turns it to the spot that she drank from, and he drank from the same spot. You have to be able to realize the emotional intelligence in that moment. The message he's communicating to her of closeness, of us being still connected, of you being clean to me at a time that you may feel dirty. He's communicating on a very deep level with her, and that's what our Prophet ﷺ is doing. And what really irks me are these people who don't care about their spouses or children's emotions. That's not my concern. I make the money. Go cry to your mom. What? What? Do you follow Muhammad? Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? Do you see this? Why did he do this other than to make someone feel loved and appreciated? That's emotional intelligence right there. Everyone got that example? This is one of my favorite because this is what emotional intelligence gives you the ability to be able to do. There's one Sahabi, his name is Zahir. Zahir radiallahu ta'ala an wasn't a very attractive person. The hadith says he was daneem with what? He wasn't attractive. But the Prophet ﷺ loved him. How much time? Okay. Cool. Time is moving slow. The Prophet ﷺ loved him a lot. He loved him deeply. One day, Zahir, he was in Medina. He used to live outside. He would come to Medina. He was in the marketplace at his little booth selling his stuff. You know, like in New York, when he's selling socks and stuff, you know, right? I always say I don't like New York, but it's a little touchy spot in my heart. I don't know what it is. Anyway, so he's selling his stuff at his booth. The Prophet ﷺ walks up behind him without him knowing, and he squeezes it from behind, bear hugs him. Like, first of all, the Prophet was so chill, ﷺ. Like, you think of someone that's so uptight and religious and super thinking about akhirah all the time, and then you see this narration, he comes up behind someone's bear hugs him. SubhanAllah, man. That's beautiful. So he bear hugs him. And right away, Zahir says, when he bear hugged me, the first thing I did was pull off. Because someone bear hugged me. But then when I looked to the side, I saw it was him. So he says, I stopped fighting and I leaned back so that my back would touch his chest. So that my back would touch his chest, I just leaned back. Right? Amazing. So then the Prophet ﷺ is not done joking with his friend. He goes, "Man yashtar minni, abd minni, man yashtar abd minni." Who wants to buy this guy from me? Who wants to buy this guy from me? And then Zahir says, "Idan tajidni kasidan ya Rasulullah." If you try to sell me, I'm not worth anything in the sight of people. I'm not worth anything. And here's the thing, brothers and sisters. If you keep trying to assess your value by how other people assess beauty, you'll never think you're anything. If you keep trying, scrolling through Instagram saying, oh, that's how beauty's supposed to look. That's how beauty's supposed to look. Guess what? Your whole life you're going to be chasing somebody else's standards of beauty. Whole life. How long are you going to do that for, yo? How long are you going to do that for? You going to keep chasing other people's standards of beauty? That you got to weigh this much, you got to look like this, you got to have this color, you got to have this complexion. That's for the birds, man. You got to know yourself. Feel me? You got to know yourself. Stop comparing yourself to other people, or you will get this mentality that I'm not worth anything. So now, here's where emotional intelligence comes in. What do you think an emotionally intelligent friend does when they see their friend down? Pick them up. So what does the Prophet ﷺ do? He changes his perspective so that he can realize his worth. He says, "Ben, in the law, he says, no. In the sight of Allah, forget the people. In the sight of Allah, you're priceless." Can you imagine now, for the rest of your life, the Prophet ﷺ said, "I'm priceless in the sight of Allah"? And I'll be walking around like, yeah, you can't even see me. Y'all don't see me, man. Y'all don't see me. I'm priceless. Prophet ﷺ said it. But do you see how he lifted him up? That's what emotional intelligence is all about. Do you see how he loved his wife? Do you see that? Do you see his ability to connect? Wallahi, now, if you start studying his life, you will see his ability to touch people's hearts by being present in their hearts and understanding. And the saddest thing is when you see it in him, you're going to look at the community and be like, oh my God. I know this one sister, my time is up. I know this one sister that was like, she was like 17. She's like, we literally walk on eggshells in our house because our dad is so like, just temper, we literally just like, dad's home, just stay out of his way. Because he's just going to explode at any moment. What? This man claims to follow the Prophet ﷺ? How? Where's the disconnect, man? because they don't realize that's part of deen. And that's why I wrote the book. That's my point, that we need to connect to people's emotions. Last thing I'm gonna say to the brothers, here's the deal, here's a practical walk away. Yo, Ahmed, we going to the ball, you coming? Nah, bro, I'm good, it's fine, I'm coming. Thank you. This is what normally happens. All right, can we hit you up next time? your boy's like, yo, is Ahmed coming? No, he ain't coming. What's wrong? Oh, no, he cool. Let's replay that. Yo, Ahmed, you going to the ball? You coming? No, I'm good. Yo, man, what's going on, man? Hold on. Okay, we good? What's going on, man? No, I'm good. No. Yo, I'm coming too, bro. You see what I'm saying? That's the difference. That's prophetic. That's love. That's following the Prophet's lifestyle. You understand? So, emotional intelligence. I'm done. My time is up. Emotional intelligence is about connecting to the heart of people around you, feeling their pain, and then knowing what to do about it, being able to lift them up. And wallahi, if you're able to do that, you'll change people's lives. May Allah bless you.
So wonderful content. May Allah will accept you from you, Sheikh. Is that okay? Usually I'm the hype guy. And somebody else sits and does all the boring talk. So I'm going to do all the boring talk because the hype guy was up first, all right? So I actually wanted to talk a little bit about, and I'd love to take questions. I'm sure Sheikh would love to take some questions. Beautiful presentation. I guess I want to talk about how can we systemize emotional intelligence within our organizations and communities, particularly when we learned it very in depth here at an individual level, right? So there's actually two ways that we make change in our communities. One is individual contributors. Everybody's got to be more emotionally intelligent at an individual level. But systematically as well, it doesn't just resolve that everybody's an individual contributor, or they know that they should be more emotionally intelligent, or even they increase their capacity of how to be more emotionally intelligent. We have to systemize the process in many different ways. Companies love to do this because they understand, hey look, when we build emotionally intelligent organizations, they know, measurements or studies tell us that organizations that have more emotional intelligence, particularly they took a group of engineers. Engineers are usually not too emotionally intelligent. They need the workshop. So engineers, they noticed that IQ measurements in their engineers, so it's a workforce of engineers across different engineering, by the way. So they did, computer engineering, software engineering, civil engineering, etc. So they studied them and they realized there is no differentiation in performance when it comes to their IQ. Like at a certain point, all engineers are the same, right? And your standard deviation off the means, okay? You're all the same. But the performance metrics that allow one company to excel over another is their EQ. And when it's systemized across the company. So the question is, okay, so companies, because they want to make money, they're like, okay, how can we systemize this? Muslims, they don't know that they need to make money hereafter, so we don't systemize anything, right? Even though Islamically, subhanAllah, our deen automatically systemizes many of the things that Sheikh Mika spoke about. For example, there is no other systemic way of living on earth where people from various colors, shapes, sizes, places are supposed to meet regularly on the dot, on time, and stand next to each other and do the same exact thing for 20 minutes straight. Like this, is there any other system on earth where you get, Indonesian, Cambodian, Indian, Pakistani, Afghani, Bosnian, Arab, Syrian, Palestinian? We can go across the globe. Can you see any other system on earth where people got to meet exactly like 5 o'clock? We're all going to do the same thing for 20 minutes and nobody's going to speak. No, there's no system on earth. So Allah Azza wa Jalla systemizes concepts as well. So yesterday, I had a session that talked about knowledge is empowerment when you're enlightened and you're aware. But systemizing actions is also extremely important. So how do we systemize emotional intelligence in our community? Like what are we supposed to do? Or even in our homes. Let me start with the home philosophy first, because Sheikh hit on that a lot. How do you systemize emotional intelligence within the home? Well, it happens actually in various different ways, ideally with parents, but I think adults and children can do this as well. One of the ways is that you have to have spaces where you consciously create for people to express emotion. And that's actually sometimes, as the Sheikh mentioned, the fathers, oh, I can't even talk to the father. And that's true. Sometimes, like, you have to create the safe space. But as a family or as a siblings, or even if you guys are like a force, like everybody gangs up against the father, and he's like, Dad, we're really concerned about you today. Can you just sit down and tell us what's going on with you? It's a simple thing, right? Ideally, it's done over the dinner table, right? I mean, 100 years ago, this would be like ABCs. Nowadays, because we're so divergent in how we do things, like it's not an ABC thing anymore, right? Dads are where do we learn our emotional competence from? It's mostly from parents. So if I've never seen my dad cry, like how would I understand crying? I can't. The family is a systemic way for us to be developed. So you have to be able to create those spaces systematically. If somebody's struggling, for example, a sibling or something going on, it's important to not text them, but call them. I know we do that with our friends. Sheikh talked about it with our friends, but even with our family sometimes, like your mom's heated. Like you don't just take the time to just like let it steam out and then try to see what's going on. Because the interesting thing about emotions, that Sheikh again beautifully articulated, is that we don't realize the impact that they make. We don't realize what they do in our decision making. And so it's always, every moment of our life has an emotion. And it's always impacting something, so understand that. I wanted to go to our communities, because that's a little bit more where I jotted down a whole bunch of notes. So the first of them is that we should create systems in our communities, like wherever you're at. You should take time, لِتَعَارَفُوا, to get to know one another. Again, systemizing, right? There's a reason why the Prophet ﷺ, like the Arabs aren't used to like this buddy stuff, like me and Sheikh can hold hands. Like we're not, Arabs aren't used to that stuff, particularly when one tribe all of a sudden moves in with another tribe, right? And actually, if you think about it, that's usually how a lot of like immigrants coming into a native population. By the way, the Prophet was an immigrant when he went to Medina. So the Prophet understood, hey, look, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure that everybody is so intimately paired up together. Okay? Not just like we're going to talk in the masjid in the corner for 5 minutes, right? Not just like we're going to meet once a week for help. I mean, those are really good things. That's a way to do it. But the Prophet had it at an extremely intimate, systemic level. Every person that immigrated had to live with somebody that was from the homeland. Okay? That was from the home. That is like absolutely. You guys ever travel with somebody you don't really know? It's awkward, man. The hotel rooms are awkward. Like the bathroom line is like, no, you go. Wait, maybe I should go, right? It's like it's an awkward thing. Like we're not naturally used to that. So the Prophet had to create the system that everything was able to be built off of, the emotional intelligence of bringing people together. What we don't do in our communities, for example, is that we don't go to people that are not from the area. Like, so this is a conference. I used to be here all the time. Usually the people that are always here, they're the cool people, right? And everybody that's new walks in, like, oh my God, the cool people are over there. I wish I could be with them. It's really emotionally intelligent systematically when we develop a culture in a masjid where anybody that walks in that's new, somebody latches to that. Somebody just goes up there and is like, hey, how you doing? I haven't seen you from around here before. What's going on? Yeah, Chip, you want to add to that? No, go ahead.
In Texas, basically, at the churches, they have this thing. If you're new to the church and you pull in the parking lot, you put on your hazard lights, and then immediately someone's going to see you the whole rest of the day.
SubhanAllah. Isn't that amazing? It's like they understand, hey, look, the strongest form of connection of emotion is person to person. Right? That's the way it happens. So when we're able to systemize this, it's really, really good. It can be just after Salah. It can be something that we do, like it's a habit that we constantly get into. Another thing that we should do as well, is that we should understand that when there are various, and alhamdulillah, this center does an amazing job with it. So I think this is actually a model center. Alhamdulillah, since I've grown up here, we've been here, and maybe you don't know a lot of what's going on, but mashallah, there's a lot of amazing things that happen here, and I think it should be replicated in other places. One of the things that they do, right now we're up here talking all this good stuff, right? Downstairs they're having a lecture in, anybody know? In Uzbeki, an Uzbeki lecture for the Uzbeki community, right downstairs in the masjid. Right now, right, this is the second. So it's really important also to identify the practices of people that are in your scope and know how to serve them. One of the things that a lot, again, systemize. How does Islam systemize? See, Allah told us over and over about certain types of people, demographics, that you should hone in on. Allah didn't say, feed the orphan. Allah he said, systemize the process of feeding orphans. He didn't say just give food to the needy, like somebody hungry, just feed them. He said, systemize the process that when somebody's hungry, they're always going to figure out a way for them to eat. You understand the difference? It's not a one action thing, it's a systemic thing, and obviously Allah repeats it a lot. So how do you, as a community, identify the areas of our masjid, like our youth, our kids, our adults? How do we understand who they are, what their needs are, and serve them? That is actually the prophetic model, right? That is how the Prophet did it. So people that were hungry and needy, they understood, hey, I could crash in the masjid. I'm a traveler. Hey, I know my hotel room. I know where it's going to be. It's going to be in the back of the masjid. Like it was systemized for people. Our communities don't do this enough. So if you have, for example, an Uzbeki community, an Urdu community, an Arab community, preteens, kids, youth, I know in this masjid we do it. And I'm saying other masjid, wherever you guys are from, you've got to be able to push these things to happen. You've got to be able to understand how we can serve the people and be in their presence. Because presence, emotional presence is all about presence. If we're never in the presence of others, we don't ever actually fix their problems. We don't ever facilitate that change that the Sheikh was talking about. The last thing I had here was about, then it's also, the last part is about inclusion. So it's one thing to identify people. It's one thing to serve them. But the next step is to include them. I know you guys have a lot of teams here as well. And a lot of times in teams, or volunteers in masajid in our communities, we don't really include everybody in certain things, right? So sometimes the loudest voice, I'm usually the loudest voice, by the way. The Sheikh is much louder than me today, though. So sometimes the loudest voice creates a tremendous bias within groups of people. Because we naturally, the most charismatic, the most loud, we naturally lean to that person. Because we assume competence and authority. However, if you're an inclusive, so let's say, for example, what I mean by loud in this case, it's a mostly Arab community. So all the Arabs could play. All the Arabs, they're able to voice their concerns. But when you're truly inclusive, it's when the voices that are not heard are heard. And not just heard. We already talked about them being heard. It's about them being included. That they have the same equitable rights and privileges as the other party. Does that make sense? So a really good leader doesn't just live, so if you're facilitating like a group of people, right? I'm talking about like a small group. If you hear only the loud people, and you don't consciously point out to the quiet people to hear from them, actually in groups, they study this in groups. The group is so much less effective than when groups where everybody's heard. Let me give you guys a deeper one. Groups that are diverse, that everybody shares their opinion, are much more productive in so many different tasks, like in games, and solving problems, and so many different kind of tests that they've done. So even if they're like Democrats and Republicans, staunch, you put them against all Republican teams or all Democrat teams, the homogenous groups fail in their performance compared to the diverse group. If you did it across ethnic backgrounds, religious backgrounds, they've studied it across so many backgrounds. So the diversity and the inclusion is what creates transformation. And we don't realize that, right? Like we don't think like, oh yeah, the quiet voices are powerful voices as well. The ones that we don't think they don't have an opinion, bringing them into the decision-making process empowers our entire organization, or our entire community, or at least our entire team, if it makes sense in that small. So check that out. I'll wrap up in 2 minutes. Again, practical things that we can do for our communities. Number 1, increase interaction between all people of a space. Increase interaction that's deep and meaningful. That's really important. Again, I mentioned after Salah, creating programs where people Guys, you create programs, and I know I've done this for a long time. I know the center, they do a lot of programs like that, where people spend meaningful time getting to know one another and connect. It's not just about sitting there and listening. It's really about people connecting and spending time together. That's really important. Meaningful programs where people interact. Number two, meaningful programs that are relevant, that serve value of other people. So again, creating conscious programs. I know the Sheikh mentioned it in the session before, like where you're inviting, like you're doing cultural dinners that are really, they're diverse dinners. I know we've done that here many years. I know I've done that in the Dallas Center as well. Like where we do cultural, it's a cultural events where everybody understands their culture, ethnic backgrounds, they understand their foods. That's really, really important to create conscious programs that serve in a more emotionally intelligent way, right? To scale emotional intelligence. Different programs also around very specific to serving people's needs. So youth needs, teenager needs, middle school kids needs. You've got to be able to understand what those needs are, and you're able to connect and facilitate that change very much when you do that. Last thing is to create a culture of inclusiveness where everybody's equitable. There's no, oh, he's Egyptian, or she's Pakistani, or like we mentioned before, these stereotypes, but we judge them differently. Oh, she's a better youth director because she knows us. Or he's a better imam because he understands us. There has to be a way where you're able to create equity in an organization or in a community center where everybody feels that they are respected, valued at all times equally. That's very, very important, inshallah. Jazakallah khair again, Sheikh, and you guys. We'll take some questions. I think we have time for questions? Okay, that's fine. That's fine, man. We don't want to include y'all in this discussion. Okay. Go ahead. MashaAllah, she wrote it down.
Okay, to identify society. Oh, yeah, gotcha. So the question is about, you're concerned about identifying other people's emotions. Yeah, so since brother spoke about the communal, I'll take questions because it's on the individual. Basically, what you want to do, as I said, the first thing is you have to start learning how to listen better. That's the very, very first thing. Most of the time you're not getting it because you're not listening. So if you start to listen more, that's better. You'll be able to start picking up on a lot more things. Then the other thing is building presence while listening. That is a specific skill. Many of us zone out, we're not present when we're talking to people. We're literally looking at their face and thinking about 1,000 other things. Okay? So what we have to do in that case is build presence. Now the question is, how do I build presence? Well, there's a lot of things you can do to build presence. Like, a lot of studies talk about how meditation builds presence. You're like, oh, meditation. We don't meditate. Yeah, we do. We have zikr, we have salawat, we have after prayer. If that's not meditation, what is? Building time alone increases your ability to build presence. And so there's a lot of exercises you can do to actually build presence. That's the main thing. The main thing is learning how to listen to people better. Now, I will say this. When it comes to building it in children, studies show that when you engage in an activity with a child, a learning activity, then you are actively increasing that child's emotional intelligence because they mirror you, right? And so they're watching you at every moment to learn how to respond to emotions. So as a mother and as an older sibling, you need to be very careful how you drive, how you respond to things when you're driving, how you respond to a spill. You spill water, you go, where you go, whatever, right? You say something bad. Because they will literally mirror that, and that's how they will deal with emotions when they're faced with them. So you have to be very cognizant of how you are expressing emotions, because they really don't know. They're a blank slate. They're learning directly from you. Another important question that's normally asked, I'm just going to ask it, is if my people around me, father, mother, whatever, don't have emotional intelligence, how do I build theirs? That's a question that I often get. And what I say is that's hard to do, but what I can teach you to do is this. Learn that person's love language. What I mean by that is you're going to have to work to increase their emotional intelligence by talking with them, right? But you're also, for your own well-being, You have to learn how your Baba says, I love you. Maybe he never said he loved you, but he says it in a different way. You're going to have to learn his language because for your own stability, you need to understand he does love you, but he communicates it in a different way. But that doesn't get him off the hook for not being able to communicate. You understand what I'm saying? He needs to learn how to communicate his love. You need to learn how to interpret his love, whether he communicates it effectively or not. Right? There's a lot to be talking about.
I'll mention a few quick things. The phone is going to go off any moment. So after I mention those things, if we have time for another question, inshallah, we can do it. I just want to say the conference does not end now, inshallah. We still have one more session. Actually, technically 2 more sessions after Isha. So if everyone could make their way back up here, inshallah, we have a session on what is prophetic activism. So how do we apply everything that we learned today into the community now in terms of activism. Secondly, inshallah, we'll make the announcements for the MSA that wins the most amount of representatives for the charity meeting.